And here we are once again, all the way from California, Dr. Peter Cichonski. How you doing, Peter?
Hey Ken, I'm awesome today. It's been a good day. Just got back from the East Coast, and it was about 5 or 6 days of temperatures in the 40s, 40s Fahrenheit for us. So pretty chilly, and got into nice cold water. We talked about that last time. The 42-degree water temperature, and so that was good. So I got renewed. I got some good cold thermogenesis going, and got some oysters full of DHA on the trip, and it got me motivated actually to on the way home. I had a 6-hour flight and was able to get going on my second the second article, I guess, for the next issue of Iron Man coming out.
Yeah.
So I got a good start on it, and it was a productive flight. Let's put it that way.
Excellent. So the cold thermogenesis and the oysters are the key to producing excellent Iron Man articles.
Well, let's hope so, right?
Yeah.
So do you know about the? Have we spoken about the oysters?
No. Let's talk about oysters.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, so I mean, I'm not sure how familiar you are with DHA, but DHA is basically brain food.
Right.
It is. It's one of the most important, fats that really build your brain, build what we call the electron cloud to allow your brain and body to function optimally. And so it's very important to have DHA circulating in your system at all times. And so the richest sources of DHA are seafood, and of seafood, shellfish, shrimp and clams and mussels.
Yep.
And the king of all shellfish for DHA content are oysters.
That's incredible.
So,
wow.
Yeah. So I pretty much once or twice a week I get 6 oysters, on the half shell. Yeah, I guess out there, are you guys got oysters out there?
Yeah, we do. Yeah,
Pretty.
They're good.
Pretty popular, or
yeah, they are very popular.
I don't know.
They're expensive, but they're popular. Yeah.
They are not cheap, although I will tell you, on Cape Cod we have 3 different varieties, and the town I live in is Dennis, Massachusetts, on the Cape, and they've got Dennis oysters. So in Dennis, it's against the law to sell anything other than those Dennis oysters.
Oh, wow.
You want to support local community, and so I always they have oyster happy hour up until 6:30. So I always, go and get my 6 oysters for $1.25 each, and
that's good.
I feel smart and motivated when I do that.
There you go. Wow. I went to a buffet years ago in Melbourne. I was in Melbourne. I went to a buffet and I ate 100 oysters out of the shell.
Oh, jeez.
That would be a huge electron storm in my brain. It wasn't a cloud.
Oh my God, you must have been just firing on like 27 cylinders or something.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah.
Wow. That's going to be some sort of record.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
I was determined to get to 100. Yeah. I got to 70. I thought, I'm going to keep this going. And then, it was great.
I'm wondering how you felt after that.
I don't know. Full. That was one sensation.
Full. Good answer. In one word, how did you feel, Ken?
Yeah.
I felt full. But, and then, that's great. I've never, that's something I'll, I feel like an underachiever now, so I'm going to work on that.
Yeah, but I didn't record the results. So, that's the failure of it all. So, but anyway.
Well,
next time.
Believe you. You know. Yeah, next time. So, and actually I was at the airport sitting there, and I had about an hour to get on the flight, and there's a seafood chain called Legal Seafood, and in the Boston area, and so I sat down for my last 6 oysters, and I got on the plane, and I just, I was pretty productive as far as writing the article, and I get asked quite often in my office about food, about diet, the different types of diets, what I recommend, and I tell everybody, the same thing. It's food is important. It's very important in the right circumstance. But then I ask the question. I say, but what do you know about light? And I get the either the blank stare or the shrugged shoulders, or just a puzzled look.
Yeah.
And they say, well, what do you mean light? I says, well, everything that you eat is a product of photosynthesis. It's a product of light. It's everything is directly or indirectly grown, in light, and it takes sunlight for that food that you are wanting to talk about to be able to be produced, grown, and then we, consume it. And so I said, light's a pretty important part of the whole process, and so it's kind of interesting because I don't know if we've discussed the basics of photosynthesis and in prior podcasts.
No, let's talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah, in a nutshell, because ironically, plant cells and human cells are very similar in specific ways. So in a plant, you have a cell in the leaf called the chloroplast, and that's where photosynthesis takes place. We've all been taught basic photosynthesis in elementary school, at least in this country.
Yep.
And it's you've got your plant, and the plant absorbs water from the earth, and it absorbs carbon dioxide from the air, and nothing can happen until sunlight hits that plant, right?
Yep.
And when the sunlight hits that plant, that light is basically what we call photonic energy. Those photons, light is a wavelength, right? Just like other sounds, sound waves. Light is a wavelength also of photons. And when that photonic energy or light hits the chloroplast, where the water and carbon dioxide is, a chemical reaction takes place. And think of it as a game of pool. You guys play pool over there, right?
Of course.
Right?
Yeah,
billiards. So think of it this way. Think of that inside that chloroplast, you've got a pool table, and the cue ball is the light, and it comes in and it strikes the water and the carbon dioxide. You get a bunch of those molecules in there that are balls on the table.
Yep.
And it scatters them all.
Yeah.
And when everything settles down, what happens is water is what? H2O, right? Two hydrogens.
Yeah, one oxygen.
And one oxygen, right?
Yeah.
And carbon dioxide is CO2, right? Carbon and oxygen, right? O2. Yeah, exactly. And so when the light hits that those balls of hydrogen and carbon dioxide, it causes a reaction, and when that reaction stops, now instead of hydrogen balls and carbon dioxide balls, water, H2O balls and carbon dioxide balls, now you've got oxygen balls, and you have a sugar ball, okay, which is so basically what happens is the hydrogen from the water is knocked off by the energy of the light, and it attaches onto the carbon dioxide ball.
Yep.
And now that is what is called a sugar or a carbohydrate, right?
Okay.
Carbon, a hydrogen, and an oxygen. Yep. And you're left with an oxygen. So, why do we like to plant trees? Because they give off oxygen, right?
Okay, yeah.
That's why we have plants in our house, because they make oxygen. When the sun comes through the window, hits the plant, you get photosynthesis, oxygen is released in the air, and a sugar is created in the plant.
Yeah.
So, that's basically, the basics of photosynthesis. And so that sugar, that carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, then accumulates in the plant, and that's the plant's fuel source. And, we harvest those plants produce, food with those plants. We make muffins and cookies and all that fun stuff, and we eat those. We eat that sugar that was made by sunlight, right?
Yep.
With the help of carbon, with carbon dioxide and water. And the most amazing thing that people don't understand is the human body reverses that exact process that the plant just went through. So when we eat that sugar, right?
Yeah.
That sugar is harvested, okay? The hydrogen atom and the oxygen atoms. The only reason we eat food, drink water, and breathe air is for the hydrogens, the oxygens, and the carbons to make components that we need in our body.
Yep.
And so when we harvest that hydrogen from that sugar, we put it into our chloroplast. Our human chloroplast is our mitochondria.
Oh,
okay?
Okay, yeah.
And what happens there is that hydrogen atom gets taken apart. The proton and the electron of the hydrogen go through the mitochondria, which is the power plant of the cell, right? That makes our energy.
Yeah.
But do you know what the byproduct is of that that whole process?
Carbon monoxide?
It's actually ATP, right, which is our cellular energy.
Yeah.
And then equal amounts of carbon dioxide and water.
Yeah. Okay.
So that carbon dioxide and water was donated by the plant, right?
Yeah.
To make the sugar.
No, cool.
And then we took that sugar and we took the hydrogen back off of it, and then we released the water and carbon dioxide back outside of the mitochondria, so that it eventually ends up back in the atmosphere, and the cycle of life goes on.
Awesome.
So
that's cool.
Yeah, so that's kind of a quick story, but so getting back to the food thing, light made that food possible, and that light that made that food possible is also a very valuable resource, because you can take that food and you can use that food and you can make ATP, but which is cellular energy, and you can make water and carbon dioxide. But if you don't allow your mitochondria to work properly, and we've talked about this part of it, we've talked about, you need your equipment to run properly. The food that we just talked about that was made was the fuel that went in and made the ATP.
Yeah.
But it's the functional equipment of the mitochondria that has to work efficiently enough to do that producing.
Yeah.
And that's where the light story comes in. So if you are diligent and you understand light, then you can maximize your, what we call your biophysics, which is the physics of your biology, which is your equipment, to work properly. So you need to make sure that your equipment is running as it's designed to run in order to produce what it needs to produce efficiently. And so we look at light, and we don't pay too much attention to light because we just always assume that our equipment is running 100% efficient all the time, like it doesn't need a tune-up, like it just can run on forever.
Yeah.
And that doesn't happen. That's not how it works. So what do people know about light? And if you don't understand light, you don't understand how your equipment works, and then you don't understand the importance of that. And if you want to break it down just a little bit, you have to look at the different sources of light that we have access to. 150 years ago, we didn't really have access to anything other than light that was produced in nature, right?
Yep.
We had sunlight. We had fire. So fire, I guess, is it is produced in nature. You know, when lightning strikes something, you're gonna get a potential fire.
Yeah.
And but it's a naturally occurring thing that happens on our planet. But it was in the late 1800s that artificial light, came into existence.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, I was listening to my mentor, Dr. Cruz, speak today, and every disease that you and I know about has been popularized or come into existence in that time period. Before the late 1800s, all the diseases that kind of make us sick and take us down were not so prevalent or in existence.
Yeah.
It's natural sources of light that kept us going down a road, and artificial sources of light that have now affected our equipment in such a way that it is causing dysfunction, malfunction, and breakdowns of that equipment.
Okay.
So,
Wow.
the most important thing to look at is light first, because you want your equipment to run properly, and the best kind of light is natural light. Obviously, we've talked about sunlight. The sun is 42% of sunlight is what we call infrared light.
Yep.
Infrared light, believe it or not, penetrates the body up to 30 centimeters, which is 12 inches.
Wow.
I mean, well, you guys go on centimeters, so
that's through your body from back to front, pretty much. Yeah. Wow.
From back to front.
Yeah.
And so the article, I've got a working title right now. I'm calling my article "The Light Diet."
Yeah.
And that could mean numerous things, right? Like a light, as in a
Yep.
light diet of not eating too much,
Yep.
or a light diet of actual light,
Yeah.
and allowing your equipment to work properly so that the food that you do eat will become more useful in your equipment. And so if you get the light diet right, then the food diet will be way more effective, and any kind of diet that is in moderation will probably be somewhat effective, and some things will work better than others, but only when the equipment is functioning at its best.
Yeah.
So I could have gone down numerous roads in writing this article, and so what I decided to do was, because red light is like I said, 42% of sunlight is infrared light, and the importance of red light in the light diet is it penetrates the body, and we've talked numerous times about your mitochondria, and there's 5 what we call respiratory proteins. I like to call them pieces of equipment, machines, that have a purpose. Well, that 4th piece of equipment before the final 5th piece is it's called cytochrome C, and it's what we call a red light chromophore, which means it absorbs that red light from the sun.
Wow.
And like I said, because infrared light can penetrate 30 centimeters, pretty much every mitochondria in your body absorbs red light when you allow it to be exposed to the right kind of light.
Yeah.
And so, as a side note, any artificial light in most buildings is LED or fluorescent lighting.
Yep.
And LED or fluorescent lighting, you know how much red light that has?
Oh, 1%.
Yeah, zero. Or 1% or less, because it is the blue wavelength of light.
Yep.
That there might be slight in some fluorescent. There's a little bit of red, but it's all blue light. So you are not going to get your light diet proper inside, and it's only when you go outside that you'll absorb that light into each and every mitochondria. And the reason that's important is because, well, there's 2 things. You absorb that red light, and what it does is it makes the 5th piece of equipment work more efficiently.
Okay.
And and that fifth piece of equipment is that nanomotor that spins at 9,000 revolutions per minute that puts all of the ATP, water and carbon dioxide together and gets it out of the mitochondria into the system. But what it really does also, that red light, is it makes all of the water around that fifth piece of equipment and all of the water in the mitochondria what we call less viscous or more of a slippery type of water. It makes it a better lubricant.
Yep.
So that water is able to ensure that nanomotor spins 100% efficiently because there's little to no drag when there is red light influencing that water.
Okay.
And so your equipment becomes extremely efficient and making energy, water, and carbon dioxide for the rest of your equipment.
That's interesting.
Your major machine.
Yeah. That explains something, and this is a real life example, and this explains it perfectly. When I work on my computer in my room, it's reasonably dark. There's natural light, but it's not outstanding, as most rooms are. I get a little bit tired, sluggish, bored, disinterested. If I walk outside and hang the washing on the line in the sun, instantly I'm energized. I'm like a new person. And I'm back in there and I feel great. So that answers that question. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, we are literally 2/3 solar, and that's where the solar panels come in. I like to use the term, you have to have skin in the game.
Yep.
If you don't expose your skin to the right kind of light, your equipment will not work very good. So what difference does the gas, the fuel that you put in the equipment matter?
Yeah.
And so when I explain this in my practice, it gives a whole new perspective as to what the best food or diet is.
Yeah,
well,
okay.
I think it's the light diet.
Yeah.
The light diet is the best diet to have. And vice versa. I think in my article I will save the blue light story for maybe my next article. Maybe I'll do a little series on light because as we've spoken of, the blue light it's a whole different story. That tells your biology what time of the day it is and what to do and when to do it. So it's more of an instruction manual instructing the equipment to function at specific times.
Yeah.
But if you're getting so here's the deal. In reality, if you're getting natural light at the right time of the day, you're getting both blue and red. And so you're getting your timing on the right time, and your equipment is being instructed to function exactly as it's designed to, and the equipment is being processed and functioning 100% efficient because you've got the red light at the same time.
Yep.
There's nothing about artificial light that can do anything even remotely close, but actually does the opposite, because very rarely do we have red light inside, because now the old incandescent lighting which was close to the natural spectrum of light, has been banned in this country. And we only sell LED light and fluorescent light. All our TVs, our devices, everything is blue LED light.
Yep.
And so that light is way stronger than the natural blue light. So it totally lies. It's a different instruction manual. It's an alien instruction manual for your equipment.
Yep.
And it does not program it as designed. So that's where the dilemma lies. It's and I think we'll go down that road in maybe in my next article, but
for sure.
So that's kind of what I thought about on the airplane as I was flying back. And
wow, that's amazing.
Probably 2/3 of the article together, and I felt very productive with those oysters.
Yeah, it sounds like it because you just reproduced it then, the whole deal. That was amazing. Yeah, that was fantastic. It's interesting, and and in summer, when summer comes here in Australia, it's like an adrenaline shot for me. it's like instant.
Yeah.
It's almost like a switch flicking on the extended daylight hours, the warmer weather. And I like to get out in the sun, and I enjoy it. I enjoy the heat and the light, and the extension of the days. And I really enjoy getting up early. And this is this explains this as well. My favourite time to train is when I'm come out here at 5 a.m. in the middle of summer, and I've got my garage door open in my gym, and the sunlight's coming in. Yeah, it's just
absolutely.
Yeah,
And I think I may have told you that I train year-round outdoors. I don't train indoors at all.
Okay.
Yeah, I belong to a gym that has a full outdoor. Just like the pit that you visited over at Venice Beach.
Yeah. We got
one of those right in my little town here, and it's got we got 5 squat racks outdoors. We got all the benches. We dumbbells up to 150 pounds.
Wow.
We've got and I only train outdoors with shorts.
Yep.
Year round and no shirt.
Yep.
So that is, and I train early in the morning because that first 4 hours of sunlight are the most important at directing your biology and your equipment to run its course through the day. It sets it all up for you.
That's amazing.
So
wow.
Yeah, so I think it's vitally important to understand some of this stuff, especially as old guys. I keep saying that it's all about health span, and we want to maximize our health span. And a lot of what I try to educate my patient base with is a lot of the information we talk about.
Yep.
It's good stuff.
Yeah, it's amazing. All right, Peter, that was fantastic chatting to you again for Flexr6 Media. What an exciting topic, and I can't wait to move on to the blue light next time.
Yeah, I think maybe next time we'll touch on the blue light, and we'll kind of get our own little light series going, and it'll maybe spark me for my third article on the light diet part 2.
Excellent.
So good. I look forward to it. So next week let's talk a little bit about blue light.
Let's do it. Thank you, Peter. Amazing information again, and thank you for talking to us tonight.
Always a pleasure, Ken. I'll talk to you next week. Okay.
You will. Take care, my friend.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.